Hey everyone, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Reality. This is my YouTube channel. I am finally postpartum. So I already had my daughter. She's perfect, just like everyone says about their child. She's literally so perfect. I wanted to kind of let my birth be a little more confidential, discreet, but because I learned so much through my birth, I just have to share it. The biggest reason being that whenever I was pregnant, YouTube was like my holy grail. That was my go-to. I educate myself a lot through YouTube. And that sounds crazy because you're probably like, YouTube is not a reliable source. Okay, YouTube is a very reliable source because it's real people talking about real experiences. And it's not just one person's opinion. It's not really biased. You can go through like 100 different people's accounts watching their story about what you're trying to learn and just, take what you want from it. So I was like, hey, whenever I go through my experience, I want to make sure whatever happens that I share it, because I'm not posting this video for the satisfaction of having a YouTube video about it. This is so that it can be relatable, comforting to anyone that's going through it. That's the only reason. Let's just jump into the birth story and how I ended up giving birth at 42 weeks. I really thought I was going to get on here and just talk about how I had the most seamless, easy delivery, because that's really what I conditioned myself for. But your baby runs the show. And so pregnancy was really great for me. I did do a pregnancy video where I talked about pregnancy. It was amazing. And I just expected birth, labor, and delivery to be the same. And it wasn't for me. It just wasn't. It was beautiful, but it was challenging. So what kind of birth did I have? I had a hospital birth. I did want to have an at-home water birth, but where I reside at, the hospital is like 40 minutes away. So with me being a first-time mom and never going through this experience before, I just thought it would be safer for me to just go ahead and deliver at the hospital just in case I needed any type of medical intervention. With that said, if you are trying to figure out if you want to do a hospital or a water birth at home, you can have an amazing birth experience at the hospital. You just have to kind of put in a little more effort for that. I had the best hospital experience, like literally. I'm talking about from the nurses to the doctors to comfort level in our room to the resources and tools that we had available. And that's why I think that it's just really up to where you deliver at. So the one thing I will say is just make sure you research the hospital. So yes, hospital birth was great. The hospital atmosphere for me was amazing. Whenever you're pregnant, one thing that I did not think about was my due date. I had this idea, like this just like ingrained feeling that I was just gonna have my baby early. Like there was nothing about me thought I was gonna go past my due date, which is so crazy to think about now because it's very common to go past your due date. So once I went past 40 weeks, I was panicking. I was getting very anxious. Whenever you go past your due date, the days start to count down and it becomes less possible for you to have a natural delivery, no epidural, vaginal. And the reason is because your doctor and things, they're just gonna be a little more concerned that you and the baby are gonna be at risk for certain things. So whenever I hit 40 weeks and I didn't have any signs that I was going into labor, it hurt. I was very sad on the inside. I cried. Like I cried for several days straight. Every day I would cry. The fact that I wasn't getting any contractions, nothing was happening. And I cried for more than one reason. One was because I was just very ready to see my baby. And the other reason was because I wanted to have my natural birth. And as the days counted down, it was like, oh my gosh, I don't want them to try to make me get induced. So that's one thing, is that inductions. Some people opt for an induction like on their due date. They're just like, just induce me. Now this is my personal opinion and I don't judge anyone. I just have an opinion. It is what it is. I have an opinion. I think inductions are just like why would you induce yourself when you haven't given yourself enough time after your due date to see if your baby is going to come on their own? I was not a fan at all of an induction. When my OB brought it up before I even was close to my due date, I was just like, no, I'm not even going to have that conversation. I didn't want to get an induction. I didn't want to disturb my baby experience in the womb just because I was impatient or the doctor was impatient. I didn't want to do that at all. Getting induced before or on your due date is like kind of a little, to me, it was like a little like, what are you rushing for? So I ended up getting an induction. That's why I don't care about speaking about it negatively, because I got an induction. I can talk crap about it because I got one. And that's not what I had planned for me, but the video, as you can see so far, is showing you that whatever I had planned was like not happening. My daughter was, she was running the show. So my OB brought up an induction for like once I hit 40 weeks. She said, well, let's just schedule one. And I was like, okay. So we scheduled one for 41 weeks and 6 days. Granted, as you can see, I got induced past my induction date, which is fine because I literally went up into the last drop. Now, the reason induction is necessary is because a couple of the things that you could be at risk for is, number one, your baby's going to have their first bowel movement at past 40 weeks. Eventually, they're going to have their bowel movement. You do not want your baby to have a bowel movement inside of you. And most importantly, you don't want your baby to inhale their bowel movement. That happened to me. My daughter didn't have a bowel movement, but she did not inhale it. Let me make that clear. She didn't inhale it, but she had a bowel movement inside of me. Like literally the day that I ended up delivering. They were not going to wait for that. No one's going to wait. Once your baby has a bowel movement inside of you and they see that, no one's going to wait. It's kind of like either deliver now naturally or you're going to have a C-section, because it can be fatal for you and baby. So that's one reason why I would say if you're going to want to go natural and you want to wait to get an induction, wait at least a week, 41 weeks, but anything past that it actually can be risky. And then the other thing is that your baby's going to keep growing. You know, the longer that you wait, your baby's going to still grow in there, and then they're going to get actually bigger, because when you're at the end of your pregnancy, your baby gains more weight. So my baby was like almost 10 pounds when I gave birth to her. She was huge. She was big. And so that is another reason why it lessens your chance of having a natural vaginal delivery, is because when your baby's bigger, your OB, depending on you and your size and your health, they don't want you to have that baby naturally. They're going to want you to have a C-section. So I knew these things, and it just hurt that I was in that zone, like that red zone. Well, after I passed my due date, I knew I was in that zone of like risks, and I hadn't been risky my whole pregnancy. And so that was like a very, like I said, I was really sad. It was a sad time. I do want to say that I gave myself a lot of grace because I went natural as long as I could. I was in labor for 3 days, and I'm talking about I had contractions all day for 3 days with no epidural, and I just wasn't dilating. And so that was really tough. And I just look back and I say, hey, so I had to get an epidural. And I tell myself, hey, even though you had to get an epidural, how many women can labor with real birth contractions, like consistently for 3 days straight? You know what I mean? Like, I did what I could. Some women have labor for 1 day. I labored for 3 days with contractions with no epidural. So I give myself a lot of grace with that, even though I had to get one. The reason I had to get an epidural was because I got induced. And I even went through one induction with no epidural as well. I got induced, and that was a 12-hour medicine. And overnight, I slept. I didn't even sleep through it. I didn't sleep that whole night. I was just doing my breathing. I had a fan going. Like literally anytime anyone came in my room, if I was going through a contraction, I would make them stop talking if they were in the middle of the sentence. And I would click my fan on, do my breathing, get through it, and then I would let them resume whenever my contraction was over. Like, I was taking those contractions like a beast. But when it came down to it, I still wasn't dilated, and they started talking about a C-section because I wasn't dilating and I was about to approach 42 weeks. And so I had to really let go of what I wanted and do what was best for me and my baby. And I didn't want to have a C-section. Like, that was like, no way, Jose. I decided to do the second induction medicine, which was Pitocin, which is the strongest. It's going to make your contractions more frequent. It's going to make them a lot stronger. And they really did. Like, I got an epidural, And at that moment when I had to make that decision, I looked at my fiance and I was just like, am I a quitter? He was like, no, this is what you wanted, but I don't care. I want what's best for you. And so I had to let go of that and just, like I said, be a warrior about it. Okay, no, okay, we can't do, natural. Like, we have to do epidural, but we're going to have this baby naturally. Like, she's going to come out of me naturally. I was able to have her naturally. I delivered a 10-pound baby out of this body, and it was the most, like, that experience I will remember for the rest of my life. Man, every detail, because it was, I don't have any words to describe it. It was just like, I'm speechless whenever I think about it. I was speechless going through it. And the reason is because, one, I was pushing for 3 hours. That is like, I didn't expect that at all. I thought women pushed for like 20 something minutes because of my friends and women that I saw online, like they had short deliveries. That was really, really humbling. I didn't know I was that strong. I had no idea I was that strong. A part of me was laying there like, I don't know if I can finish. Like, that's how rough it was. It was extremely rough. I started pushing for an hour on hands and knees, because another thing that I was completely against was pushing my baby out. I thought that was like stupid. The OB that delivered my baby, she knew what I wanted, knew that I wanted to use gravity, but she was like, this is what's gonna work and what's gonna get this baby out. Imagine already pushing for an hour and you have like no progress. So I ended up pushing on my back. Did that for 2 hours and she finally came out. But when I tell you, after I had her, I felt like I was the strongest woman in the world. Couldn't nobody tell me I wasn't. I was like, listen, y'all be having them little 7-pound babies. I pushed out a huge baby. I did it. I'm alive. And I felt so strong and empowered, like, for days. And I had people in the hospital just like, oh my God, I can't believe you did that yourself. Like, my family was just like, we're so proud of you. And I felt so extremely proud of myself. But just always make sure that you're doing what's best for the health of your baby. Don't be so caught up in your plan. And I didn't think I would be saying this. I thought I would be saying that my plan worked. My plan was exactly what I wanted it to be, but it wasn't that way, and it's okay. Would I change anything? Even though I'm saying to you, don't go super long, I wouldn't change anything for me because it taught me a lot. I think it's really good that we got to bond a little longer in the womb. She got to soak up more of her nutrients. She got to like be in there a little bit longer. That's just how I feel. I think it was good that I would rather have a baby later than super early, of course, I hope that was any type of help or, relatable in any type of way. Maybe it eased your anxiety if you are past due, or it kind of prepared you in a way if you want to, have a baby and you think about when you go, if you become past due, to think about this story and think about how it's going to be okay, and just make the best decision in your intuition. Make the best decision for your baby and for the health of both of you. If you want to see a more postpartum, I do have some pregnancy videos, but if you want to see some more postpartum things, and I will be probably posting a couple more things about birth, please go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I would love to have you as a subscriber. And go ahead and check out my other pregnancy videos. And I'm going to see you all in the next video. Peace.